quarter of the way through the season, Drew. It's time for some power rankings, man. We've been holding off. I've seen a lot of them. Everyone's throwing them out there. Week 1, power rankings. And then week 2 comes along. You shuffle the whole deck. Everyone's all over the place. We waited to a quarter of the season. I think that's probably the best point to start talking about who is the best team in the NFL.
Oh, well, we already know.
Versus who's the worst team in the NFL. This is where you want to talk about the rankings. Honestly, you can't go too early. Now we have 4 games. We've got to see these teams play good teams. We've got to see them play bad teams. And I think we know a little bit more about each other and every team out there because we've waited this long. So anything you've heard up to this point, throw it out the window. Those power rankings don't mean anything. These are your definitive NFL power rankings as we see it.
I know all the other platforms and all your media has already come out with some of these things. I saw some crazy stuff where they're saying the most possible Super Bowl right now is the Patriots and Cowboys.
You mean it's not?
Not even close, man. Not even close.
Patriots and Cowboys. Chiefs bottom out in the playoff or in the wild card round, right?
I guess that's what they're believing in.
What's going on, Ty? Jacob, good to see you too, man. I'm glad you'll be glad when you see our rankings here if you're a Cowboys fan. Before we get into that, Drew, let's start with some of this primetime football. We'll break all that down. We're going to talk a little bit of Vontaze Burfect too. I know everyone's kind of let that blow over a little bit, but I still think the guy's getting the raw end of the deal here because everybody doesn't like him. And I think you're right not to like him, but I also don't think you punish somebody based on how much you like them. So, we'll talk about him a little bit too, and then we'll move on to Thursday Night Football and get out of here. Does that sound like a plan?
Sounds like a plan. Why did I get the messed up can?
They're both messed up, and you were the one who picked them, so no complaining.
Why'd you give me the most messed up can?
Because I got to carry the rest of the show, okay?
Okay. Well,
so you get the messed up can.
I'm busy drinking this.
All right, sounds good. Ty, good to see you. I already said that. Steve, he says, man, Buffalo's defense is awesome. It's too bad the offense has struggled the way it has, but I'm with you, man. That defense is what's keeping them alive. Kind of like Chicago. When you think about it, we talk about the Bears being a great team. They're kind of in the same boat as the Bills are, where defense is amazing. Offense, let's just say it could be better.
Yeah. Chris, what's going on, man? Good luck on the game, all the games after Sunday night. I don't wish you good luck, but...
Is that Indianapolis?
Yes.
Chiefs Indianapolis?
Yes, but good luck for the rest of the season after that, though.
I'm normally not a huge Chiefs fan, especially because you like them. It's fun to not like them. I don't hate the Chiefs.
You hurt my feelings a lot.
But this week, I'm wearing red, baby. I need the Chiefs to beat the Indianapolis Colts so my team has some hope of crawling back into this divisional fight. Not looking good for my Titans, but hey, I would have liked this to be Andrew Luck versus Patrick Mahomes.
I would too.
I think Jacoby Brissett could still do some damage with that offensive line and that running game against these Chiefs. It'll be interesting for sure.
Yeah, I agree. And Chris, I'm completely joking. I wish the Colts the best luck, especially when they face the Titans, because that team has just got awful.
And Ian says, what's better than one Sports Around the Bar t-shirt? It's 2. He said it would be a good birthday. That would be great. And hey, we're going to get you to the point where your entire wardrobe is our merchandise. That way you don't have to do anything but rep our show. That'd be perfect.
It would.
Absolutely. We appreciate you for getting that. All jokes aside, don't know why the camera just changed color, but I hope... I'm firing our tech guy after this. I'm just hanging it up. We'll go into it. Let's talk about primetime first. Let's talk about the Cowboys and the Saints, because this game, again, huge billing before the season. We go into it with Teddy Bridgewater at quarterback, and I mistakenly thought that would set the Saints back somehow. Instead, the Cowboys, who have looked very, very good up to this point in the season, playing some of the lower teams, kind of crapped the bed, in my opinion.
No, it's that Saints defense. I told you the reason why the Saints were going to win is because that defense was going to hold that offense back.
Did you see the Saints defense against the Texans?
Yeah.
Did you see the Texans offense against the Panthers?
Yeah. But this is the Cowboys versus the
It was.
Saints.
So
there's a difference.
Kellen Moore's not going to the Hall of Fame as a coach?
Not yet.
Look.
Oh, what's most important? What did that game do for me for...
Put you in the lead.
Yes, it
Put you
did.
in the lead for the
Yes,
first
it
time
did.
this season. So, congrats to you.
Yeah,
Don't know how you picked him.
Who won last year?
You did. Again, by one game, which is the same lead you have on me right now. Terrible week for me. I'll admit it. I'll be the first one to admit it. Washington let me down.
Just went...
I think we're still going. I don't know why Facebook keeps cutting out. It says we're live, so we'll just keep going.
We're still live. All right,
Thanks,
good.
Facebook. And you wonder why we're advertising. Hey, check us out on Twitter and YouTube, which we are on, by the way. If you want to win an NFL jersey, like us on Twitter and YouTube. Follow on one, subscribe on the other, whichever way it plays out. You get to enter twice, once for each one of those follows, to win an NFL jersey or one of our T-shirts. I know, just as prestigious.
Yeah.
if you want to win yours, you have until I decide that you can't do it anymore to do it. I didn't really set an end date, but it's probably going to be about 2 weeks.
Yeah. I know we froze. Hopefully you guys can still hear us. Jonathan, good to see you. John, good to see you too. John says, let's talk about the most underrated team in the league, Miami. Is that the most underrated team in the league?
Overrated, underrated, or rated right where they need to be? Well, let's start with it.
Rated.
What about their play has been underrated at this point? They hung with the Chargers. That was impressive. They hung with the Patriots for about a quarter and a half.
I like the way Josh Rosen is playing for half a game.
I like that Josh Rosen's got a little bit done with an offense that reasonably no quarterback in the NFL should be getting anything done.
Right.
But there's a reason in our power rankings they're sitting at number 2, right?
Yeah.
32, sorry. Yeah, number 2. Second best team in the league.
Let me get to 2 more comments here real quick. Chris says, Saints defense impressive for the first time since the Super Bowl. Was that the Super Bowl that they went to?
They've been okay here recently, right?
They've
been certainly better since they went to the Super Bowl, 100%. But they were okay last year. They were okay even the year before that. They've been getting steadily better, and I think you're right. This is finally the Saints defense that has stepped up to the plate and said it doesn't all have to be on Drew Brees and Alvin Kamara and Michael Thomas. We can help out too. And I think that's what this game shows. Even with Teddy Bridgewater putting 12 points on the board, that was good enough against one of the better teams in the NFL.
Yeah, definitely. John said, obviously a joke, but they were not the worst 0-4 team.
I think they are.
I think they are too.
But when you're that bad, how much gap are we talking about between these teams? The Redskins, maybe a little bit better with the running game, maybe a little bit better with the defense. The quarterback play has not looked very good outside of Case Keenum throwing for a lot of yards. Not a lot of points, a lot of yards.
Yep. Yeah. Jonathan said he told us that the Cowboys will tank and Dak ain't shit without Zeke having a great game.
I think this was on everybody on offense. I mean, the defense held them to 12 points. It's Teddy Bridgewater. At some point, you got to score, right? And I complain about my team all the time. I don't care how good the defense is. 10 points isn't good enough in the NFL.
Right, no, you're absolutely right. But that's where I put more onto it, the fact that the
You think
Saints
it's Dak?
defense had a great scheme to stop him.
Yeah, I agree.
And it started with stopping Dak, and that's what helped, or not stopping Zeke, and that's what helped.
Oh, I agree. And again, this is the same guy that we need to figure out if he's a $35 million quarterback. And my answer to that short term is no, because $35 million needs to buy me some wins against good teams. I get it. They beat up some bad teams beforehand. Cowboys fans, don't kill me here. But so far, you've played 3 bad teams and a good one in the Saints. And we've seen them kill 3 bad teams.
And lose to the good one.
Exactly. When you have your starting quarterback and you're going against a backup, you have the defense, you have the running game, you have receivers. We can chalk it up to a bad game. I'm not ready to call the Cowboys, season's over because they lost 1 game against a good opponent. But again, this is where the great teams overcome and the good teams fall a little bit short.
Yeah, no
This could be the difference between home field advantage.
Right. Ty says Lattimore locking up Cooper was good to watch. I agree.
Yeah, they have one great corner in New Orleans, and that is Marcus Lattimore. The Cowboys, I think.
No Eli Apple, huh?
No, Eli Apple, amazingly, not a great corner. So, again, I'm not sure why this wasn't a game that focused on Randall Cobb and their second-year receiver, whose name I can't remember right now.
Gallup.
Michael Gallup. This should have been a game that they focused on those two entirely and use Amari Cooper more as a decoy, but obviously they couldn't get it done. I think when you look at the way this game goes, Dak throwing for 220 yards, not super impressive from a guy that you're about to pay a lot of money to. My question is this a fluke? Is it just a bad game? Because good quarterbacks have bad games. Tom Brady threw for 150.
Yeah.
Right? Does that make Tom Brady a bad quarterback? No. And we don't know is the whole point. We don't know. I'm willing to give him the benefit of the doubt because the first 3 games looked very good, but that was very weak competition they were playing up against.
Yep, agreed.
Let's talk about the Bengals.
Let's get into Monday night game before we go on to our 31st worst team in the...
Yeah, exactly. Abysmal is all I can say. The Bengals, absolutely abysmal. I mean, the offensive line was absolutely terrible. The defense did what it could and wasn't the worst that it could have possibly been. When it's the Bengals, I'm expecting 40 points on the board against them almost every week. This defense is totally bereft of talent. But losing 27-3, that's a tough break from, again, another backup quarterback. They let Mason Rudolph look like he was halfway decent at times. I think the real hero of the day is obviously the Steelers' defense. They killed Andy Dalton in an offense that's been moving the ball, but to this point this season hasn't scored a lot.
David said Gallup is also on IR.
All right, well, then I guess it's hard to focus on him. Is that this season, or is that this week? I'm not 100% sure. But this needed to be your second and third receiver coming in clutch. Maybe it's a Randall Cobb game. It could be anyone else. You can focus on your tight ends. But obviously you're not going to target Amari Cooper all day, every day when they're going to go stack Marcus Lattimore on him.
Bees wants to know how you feel about Bridgewater after that game.
12 points, world beater.
Gets a good defense.
Against a good defense, sure. He's a
possibly
backup quarterback.
A great defense, possibly.
He's a backup quarterback. I feel better about. I don't feel better about Chase Daniel. I mean, if that's what you're asking, I'd rather have Teddy Bridgewater than Chase Daniel, Bees. But on the reverse, is Teddy Bridgewater winning you a Super Bowl? Is Teddy Bridgewater taking a team to the playoffs? They have the defense, like we talked about. They've got Alvin Kamara. They got Michael Thomas. They got a decent offensive line. What else you want? And you put up 12 points. Is this the guy that everyone's head over heels for? The best thing I can say about Teddy Bridgewater is he's smart because he didn't go sign with the Dolphins this offseason. He could have signed with them. Maybe the Josh Rosen trade never happens, and that would have been the end of his career. So I'll give him credit for that, but does 12 points, even against a team like the Cowboys, when the Saints roster is as stacked as it is, does that tell you this is a good quarterback? I still want to see more, Drew. That's my opinion. I want to see more out of this kid.
I don't see any news of Michael Gallup going to IR just yet. They said as far as Jerry Jones goes, 8 hours ago, they are not ruling out Michael Gallup versus the Packers in Week 5. So, David, I don't know what you heard. Maybe, that, like I said, that was 8 hours ago. Maybe you've seen something different than we have. But I was not aware of him being on IR.
And I'm kind of with Austin. Teddy Bridgewater is a solid backup. I mean, he and Tannehill are probably the best backup quarterbacks in the league, is what Austin said. There's a good chance of that. I'm trying to think. Who else would I rather have for a backup quarterback? Yeah, I think those two need to be at the top of the pile, I'd say. Again, we haven't seen Tannehill in the Titans' offense. There's a good chance he's terrible, too, because it's the Titans, and they seem to ruin everything when it comes to an offensive career, unless your name's Delaney Walker or Bo Scaife or any other tight end. But again, I think when it comes to it, Teddy Bridgewater's a backup quarterback that has done well and has kept them in games, but they're not putting up 22 points, 24 points, 26 points that this Saints team should be doing week in and week out with this many offensive weapons. This is why you need Drew Brees, right?
Right. Did you get to Ty's comment? He said that game sucked. The Bengals D-line made Connor and Samuel look productive, which they have not been. Pittsburgh D was the only thing that showed up last night.
Yeah, well, I mean, they put 27 points on the board. That's something, right? And it's the Bengals. I'll qualify that. The Steelers still scored 27 points. At the end of the day, you beat a division rival with a backup quarterback who had their starter. This is a big win. I mean, we're talking about Teddy Bridgewater as a good quarterback. Should we be talking about Mason Rudolph? Obviously, it's not the same caliber competition, but Mason Rudolph, I think, did okay. I don't think he was good. He wasn't great, but what do you, I think we kind of overvalue what a backup quarterback is going to do in the NFL. Maybe if you're looking at it from the standpoint of this guy could start next season for the Steelers, that might be out the window. Maybe we kind of know that he's not going to be a franchise quarterback, or you're not going to the Super Bowl with Mason Rudolph under the helm.
Maybe.
I think this is an okay game. I know Steelers fans are saying that
it's a great game to start your career.
Sure. And they need weapons. We've talked about that. Juju Smith-Schuster has not been the same guy without Antonio Brown. James Conner has looked weak at times. I think losing Mike Mularkey has hurt this offensive line. I think the Steelers, for what you have...
Okay, I got to pump the brakes just for a second there.
Sure.
For watching Smith-Schuster play, I can't just put it on him. I mean, to be honest, what have the Steelers done going into this game that sits there and goes... Juju should have played so much better. There's not one game that I would sit there and go, that's on Juju for not performing properly. This has kind of been a whole dumpster fire around that Steelers offense.
In some sense, you're right. But in some sense, when everyone in the offseason was telling me, oh, he's stepping up. He's going to be the number let me finish. He's going to be the number one wide receiver. Look out for Juju Smith-Schuster. And I was like, well, maybe he takes a step back without Antonio Brown drawing all the attention off of him. I think that is definitely in play here when we're talking about Juju and his performance at this point. Because if he was that good, and he's the number one wide receiver. I mean, Michael Thomas is playing with a backup quarterback. He put up almost 100 yards this week. Now I take that back. Dak Prescott's a starter. But Amari Cooper's not playing in the best scenario when it comes to a passing group. We don't love Dak Prescott, but Amari Cooper puts up huge numbers. If Juju is that good and that caliber, I need to see that kind of results.
My point is, what I was saying is, the Steelers' offense is a dumpster fire this year. That's the issue. No one really succeeds when the rest of the offense is failing. That's what I'm getting at. I know what you're saying. It makes sense, but I don't think you can put it all on Juju. I think until that offense kind of figures itself out, I think he's just kind of
the Steelers aren't bad because Juju Smith-Schuster isn't stepped up.
That's not what I said. I said the rest of the offense needs to figure itself out.
I'm agreeing with you. The Steelers aren't bad because Juju isn't good, but it is definitely a whole team thing. But even with Roethlisberger, we didn't see Smith-Schuster take over games. And it was a short, very small sample size. We haven't seen him take over games yet.
Ty says Minshew, the stash.
Sure, I'll give you that. For a backup quarterback, Minshew might be one of the best ones out there. I don't think you're wrong, man. Again, Jacoby Brissett is another guy whose name should be in there. He's a guy maybe that should be at the top of the list that I still call him a backup quarterback because the Colts believed going into the season it was going to be Andrew Luck or bust.
So, David, you said, he's still on IR, maybe cleared to play next week. If he was on IR,
you have to wait 6 or 8 weeks on IR,
You can't be cleared until, I think, week 9.
He was definitely injured, but
yes, but I don't think he's on IR because if he was, like I said, he'd be majority out for the season.
Now, Ty's saying with Vance McDonald down, he's going to be covered way more. First off, you need better targets than Vance McDonald, career blocking tight end. I know they've had some success. I know he stiff-armed the crap out of somebody like 2 years ago.
So overrated play.
You know who else stiff-armed somebody into oblivion? Marcus Mariota when he stiff-armed Barry Church for the Jaguars. Does that make him a great player because he had a great play?
It's such an overrated play.
I think it was a great play. It was a great play.
But it's overrated.
That doesn't make you a great player.
That's exactly. It's overrated because everyone was like, Vance McDonald's the best tight end. No, Jesse James was the best tight end, and you let him go.
I agree. Not by a lot. I don't think Jesse James is a world beater, but yeah, he's your best receiving target. Also, Ian says, as soon as Washington draws coverage, Juju will be a true number one. Is Washington going to ever draw a lot of attention from defenses?
I wanted to bring that up. Washington, if anyone's had a letdown season so far, it was Washington because everyone's like, look at this guy in the preseason. Look what he's doing. This is going to be huge for him, and he has literally been nowhere since the regular season started.
I got panned. Remember, this isn't Washington's first year. He was there yet last year, too.
Right.
I got panned in the offseason by saying the Steelers need more weapons. I was like, if Juju's going to be a great receiver, they're going to need to get more guys. And, again, not a popular take back then. It's a popular take now, isn't it?
Yeah, Austin says they got Vanett from Seattle, and he's a good receiving tight end. I hope he pans out for him, man. That's kind of what I hope. I'm obviously not a Steelers fan. I'm a Chiefs fan. But you want a receiving tight end in today's NFL, and without one, you're struggling. And I'm sorry, again, Vance McDonald, I don't think when you go into a season saying that's your number one receiving tight end, I don't think you're going to succeed well at the tight end position.
And to Ian's point, he says James is a number 2 tight end in Detroit. Sure, but when you spend a top 10 pick on a tight end, you're going to play the guy, right?
You have to.
Yeah,
not anymore, though. He's in concussion protocol. He'll be out at least for a week.
Yeah, exactly. But when he's on the field, Hawkinson has to be your first option at tight end. They signed him in the offseason before Hawkinson felled them in the draft. Maybe they didn't think he'd be there. Maybe they said we want depth at tight end. Jesse James is not a great player, but he's a quality player and probably the best receiving option they had. He just kind of fell out of favor in Pittsburgh, and that happens in every organization. Every organization, except maybe the Patriots, has favorite players that they like and guys that they don't like, and the guys that they don't like tend to not stick around forever.
Right.
I think that's what happened to Jesse James. He had a couple bad drops. That's all we heard from him, right?
Yeah.
All right, I think that's going to sum it up. Look, Steelers better than I thought it was going to be. I think the defense played really, really well. I thought the Bengals offense was going to do more.
Not to say I told you so, but it's kind of just what I thought. It was like two of these teams need wins.
I picked the Steelers at least.
Right. Yeah. And I said, which one has the more want to win? And I don't think the Bengals had a lot to play for. The Steelers, I think, do still have something to play for.
A little bit of pride hanging around.
Right.
Saying we used to be good.
David asked a question. What about the fact that Larry Fitzgerald is just over 150 yards, 1,500 yards, from breaking Rice's all-time receiving record if he... And I stand corrected.
Going back to the other one, yeah. Amazing. Will he get there? Yeah, the way they're throwing, probably not this season, but if he hangs around for another, I think he absolutely should. You're talking about 800 yards a year.
Didn't he say this was his last year?
Yeah, but he also said he was thinking about hanging up before this. This isn't the first time he's saying I'm about done. I think he can get there. Again, if this team shows any signs of life, and I know it's tough for an 0-3-1 team to show any signs of life, but if they show any signs of life, and you're 600, 700, 800 yards away next season, how are you not coming back?
Yeah.
Don't you want to be the all-time great ahead of Jerry Rice for any receiving category pretty much at all? I think he should.
Yeah.
I'd like to see it.
No, I agree. David, we could discuss him a little bit here just because we need to get to our power rankings. I mean, this guy is first, in my opinion, is a first ballot Hall of Famer. There's no question about that. This guy has been literally a solid figure for the NFL. This is someone that any team, regardless of what it is, wants to draft a player like this. Not only does he prove himself healthy and stay productive in a long career in the NFL, he stayed clean. There's no question about, is he putting himself in front of the team? Is he's not complaining about receiving the ball enough? This guy is literally exactly what any NFL team would love to draft out of every player they get, regardless if it's a receiver or any other position. He is just an amazing
professional.
He's just an amazing player, an amazing person, and the Arizona Cardinals should put a statue of him outside just because
I agree.
He is just that amazing.
Not to mention he hung around in Arizona his whole career. And he even said, if I'm not coming back to Arizona, I don't want to play anywhere else. So I give him credit because there's so many other big markets that a big name, once they went to that Super Bowl, Larry Fitzgerald could have run off to.
Right.
And he chose to stick around and stay loyal to the Cardinals. I give him credit. Mm-hmm. We'll go into power rankings. And David, man, we love talking about what you want to talk about, especially on Tuesdays. So if you guys have anything you want to talk about, today's the day to throw it out there. We have no problem talking about it.
Right.
Let's go into some power rankings. We're going to do things a little bit different this time. We've got them in tiers.
We do.
And when I say we, I mean I put them in tiers, and Drew's going to critique my tiers, and you're going to critique them along with them. Let's start with it, though. We're going to talk about the F tier in the NFL. Who are the worst teams? These are teams that there's only one way I can describe them, Drew. It's dumpster juice. They're absolutely terrible. If you lose a game to one of these teams, you need to reevaluate where your franchise is.
There's scum in a pond, and the stuff that grows on top of the scum, that's this team.
Exactly. And there's only 3 teams down there. The Redskins sitting at 30, the Jets at 31, and the Dolphins at 32. There are 3 teams in the NFL that if you lose to them, you need to reconsider everything you've done to this point. And the owner needs to look around and say, what the hell just happened? Who am I hiring that we're losing to one of these teams? And maybe even Washington shouldn't be there, but when you look at the way they've played and the way they've constantly underperformed, maybe they could sneak up into the category above. But I put him in there. When you look at the way the Giants' defense just manhandled these guys and took the ball away 4 or 5 times, this team has to be considered as one of the worst in the NFL.
I agree with the Dolphins, and I agree without Sam Darnold with the Jets. But the Redskins, to me, I feel like the Bengals should be in this position.
I thought about it.
And
I did think
and I'll
about
tell you why. Yeah, Andy Dalton started out the season well, but we're like, Andy Dalton's going to keep throwing the ball. Andy Dalton's going to put up tons of yards. He's going to find all his receiving options after week 2. This guy was the second leading thrower in the NFL, and now he's not. He's not even.
Well, he was through week 3.
He's
and
not.
Then he had a
He's
bad
not
week.
even in. That's what I said in 2 weeks.
Sure.
And then not even after that. I don't even think he's in the top 6. This guy has fallen off the map, and the rest of the team around him. Everyone kind of knew that this team was going to have problems, especially after their first draft pick this year went into IR, and he's done for the season. But sometimes you just gotta have that next mentality where it's the next man up, and they are struggling in that position, as a whole entire organization, because this is supposed to be a fresh start for this team and this franchise, and it is exactly, in my opinion, where it was last year.
The reason I let them escape the F category and the Bengals are in the category above is because if you look at these other 3 teams down here, they have very few redeeming qualities. There's not a single thing you can point to in the Dolphins that you can say, well, we can build on this. They've got a couple players in the secondary, but the secondary hasn't been good. They've been giving up passes left and right. They have nothing going for them. Washington's kind of in the same boat. The defense is supposed to be good, and they are occasionally, but then they've had bad games. They let Daniel Jones go out and beat him in his, second career start. The Jets are almost in the same spot where maybe they play defense well, but they've got injuries. They haven't run the ball well with Le'Veon Bell. They have Luke Falk, 6th-round pick, as their starting quarterback. I know Simeon got hurt. I know this is like the disaster quarterback scenario, but exactly. You're not going to get 150 yards out of this guy. The Jets, the Redskins, and the Dolphins all have nothing to play for. That's why they're sitting at the bottom of our group. They're there are 3 teams right now that, when we say the rebuild is on, you're basically tanking. You have nothing that you gain by winning a game. This isn't about pride. This isn't about establishing anything. This is about get the best pick you can to try to improve this team as much as possible in the offseason.
As far as the Jets go, they're the one team out of this group that can literally find themselves up maybe at C or B when Sam Darnold gets back. Maybe when they kind of turn the corner of what they got going on right now. But I'm agreeing with you. When you talk about week 4 going into week 5, this team has absolutely nothing going on for it. It's shown after Simeon got hurt. It's one thing for Darnold to go down, but when their second string goes down, it's over. Anytime you jump to the third guy, you're struggling.
Absolutely. Now, Ian also said if Fitzgerald had Pat Mahomes throwing to him his whole career, he would be known as the best receiver. Very, very possibly, but he's also had Kurt Warner. I know he's had a bunch of bums since then, but he's had Kurt Warner throwing it to him.
Carson Palmer.
And Carson Palmer ended the career hanging on. Who had one good year. He had one good year, and then
hold on,
kind of steadied downhill and hurt all the time. Carson Palmer.
Yeah.
So you get 3 games out of Carson Palmer, and then it's whoever's behind Carson Palmer.
You're telling me, was it Drew Henson's not a good quarterback?
And Sam Bradford, and Mike Glennon,
and who's the
Josh Rosen, Matt Leinart. Yeah, exactly. The list goes on. So he had
all Hall of Fame quarterbacks.
Well, he's done a lot with a little, right?
No,
he's done a lot with a little.
No, he would have done so much more. I agree with you, man. I think a lot of receivers would look a lot better with Patrick Mahomes throwing the ball
then again,
to him.
Chiefs spread the ball around. If the targets aren't there, I mean, a lot of bad quarterbacks, you look to the good receiver. Maybe that plays into effect. Let's talk about our next group.
He's my quarterback.
Let's talk about our next group. Let's talk about the D category. And these are teams that are bad, but they could have a good day. They could come out and beat somebody.
They're just the scum.
They're just the scum that the other scum's sitting on top of?
Yeah.
Exactly. This is a bigger category. We're going to start at number 22, the Giants. Leading the top of this group. 23 is the Buccaneers, 24 is the Raiders, 25 is the Falcons, 26 is the Steelers, and 27 the Bengals, 28 Cardinals, 29 Broncos. This is a group that is a wider kind of group of teams that they could have a good week. They could show up. They could, kind of like the Steelers this week, say, we're not losing this game to the Bengals. We're not losing this game to a division rival. And they can come upset some people.
The Titans aren't in this group?
Magically, they escaped as well, but not by much.
I agree with most of this list. Like I said, I think I would probably drop the Bengals down into the F group, but this group again has a lot of teams that are up and coming. I mean, as much as I think Jameis Winston is not the future of the organization for the Tampa Bay Bucks, when you go out there and put up 50-plus points, you got something to lean on saying, hey, we can do this maybe week in and week out. Maybe. The key word is maybe.
And the Rams is the perfect example of this.
Exactly. And then when you look at the Giants, ever since they changed the quarterback, they're 2-0. Regardless of who they played, they are 2-0 at this point.
Exactly. And on top of that, the defense seems to be revitalized, having the new quarterback, having somebody to play for.
Right.
They dominated the Redskins. And that doesn't sound impressive, but this is the same team that Case Keenum was throwing for 330 yards with bum receivers beforehand. They frustrated him through a quarter and a half. They pulled Case Keenum, and then they mauled Dwayne Haskins.
Right.
That's not anything the Giants' defense is supposed to be doing. They're not supposed to be mauling anybody.
Ian says Steelers, but not the Jags in this group. You crazy?
Well, the Jags escaped it. Maybe it's because they're 2-2, but I think the Jaguars have shown that they deserve to be in a higher group with the way the defense is played, the way they've run the ball on occasion, the way that Gardner Minshew has thrown the ball on occasion, and that's coming from me, guy who can't stand all the hype around this kid. I think when you look at the Jaguars, they are definitely ahead of where the Steelers are backup quarterback-wise. If you're the Steelers, what do they look like with Gardner Minshew throwing the ball instead of Mason Rudolph? And that's my question. I don't know.
I don't know either, to be honest.
I do think the Steelers are a little bit lower in this group. I think the defense plays well, but look at the way the pass defense has been. So you've got one side of the defense figured out. Offensively, they scored 27 points against the Bengals, but it's the Bengals. Beyond that, you see the Steelers scoring more than 20 points week in and week out. I think that's why I'm going to say the Jaguars are ahead, because I could see the Jaguars putting up almost 20 points.
Yeah.
And maybe that's the benchmark. Hey, Neil, good to see you, man. I have the Steelers at 26. Again, they beat the Bengals, so I put them ahead of them. The Cardinals are a team that defensively is not right. Offensive line is terrible. The running game hasn't taken off, even though they have David Johnson. They've got some receiving weapons, but they're very, very one-dimensional at this point. Kyler Murray's going to have to do much better if he's going to win games in the NFL with the way this roster is set up.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sorry, I'm running through our other platforms, guys. If you don't know and you're not aware, just to let you know, we put a video out there just recently today saying if you find yourself not being able to see us on Facebook, we have other platforms that we're trying to push other people onto, gain and grow Sports Around the Bar and make us a better, stronger community. Guys, we're on Twitter, we're on YouTube, we're on Periscope. Find us, please, and show your friends. We want to grow, we want to become bigger, and we want to be able to talk with you about everything that's going on in the world of sports.
Absolutely. Let's talk about these other couple teams in the D category before we move on. The Falcons. Drew, until this defense improves, they've got to be a team that, to me, is just a team that might surprise some people. I know they're sitting at 1-3, and that's going to hurt some Falcons fans' kind of feelings when you look at the offense. They can put up points, but they don't consistently put up points. They should be putting up a lot of points, right?
Right. No, they really should. And again, I know I've said this a couple of times now. This was my dark horse to win the Super Bowl this year or go to the Super Bowl, and they've really let me down. There's a lot of question marks going on with this team, and as much as I think Dan Quinn deserves to be a head coach of an NFL team, it might just not be this team, because when everything is kind of seems to be in place and it's not working, then there's problems with the very top of the list.
24, we have Raiders. I think this team is a group that can be very good at times, like when they played Indianapolis and they came out hot. They looked pretty good to start the game, and then kind of petered off towards the end, led Indy back into the game. I know they had a pick six late, but for the most part, the Raiders did not kind of establish themselves. They beat the Broncos in the same kind of fashion. This is a team that is very, very much reliant on momentum and attitude, rather than just being that much better than any other team they're going to play against. I think this is a squad that's going to win some games. I think they're going to surprise some people. But can you bet on the Raiders week in and week out the way they looked against the Vikings? And again, they played 3 great quarters against the Chiefs, and then the second quarter happened and they give up 28 points.
No.
And maybe that's just the Chiefs. I don't know.
I don't know either, man. Neil, I don't know. Did you read Neil's comment? He says, I agree. Screw FB. YouTube is where I like to watch the most. Neil, thank you so much. If you are watching us on YouTube, we appreciate the views, man. It means a lot to us.
Absolutely. Couple more. Buccaneers. Again, don't let it go to your heads, Bucs fans. You had a great game against the Rams, but how long does that last? I don't really know, Drew. I think the Giants are the same way. Great game against the Redskins. Not as impressive as the Buccaneers, but beating the Rams, but you got to take it where you can get it. Maybe that team creeps up into the C category if Daniel Jones keeps things rolling. For now, I think you look at the Giants, and you got to say, week to week, they're a team that can compete against some lower teams. They may surprise a better team than they are once in a while with Daniel Jones under the helm, but for the most part, defense doesn't have a lot going for it.
Did you read Scott's comment? Did you get Scott's
comment? What comment? I don't get any comments.
Scott, it's good to see you, man. We were ignoring you. Facebook just does not show us all the comments. It's absolutely terrible. He says, is college endorsements going to be local or national?
Both. I think when you have national level guys like Tua Tagovailoa, like Justin Herbert, these guys that we're talking about moving on,
Tim Tebow,
Jalen Hurts, when we're talking about all these guys that have the national appeal, they're going to get national level sponsorship as long as they're in the state that's going to allow it. And I think the dominoes are going to fall here. California's moved forward. It's going to fall.
I know I don't do a lot of the Wednesday night shows, but guys, one thing that I really do want to press on this, because there's a lot of people out there that are very unaware what this means. Everyone's sitting there saying California is agreeing to pay players. This is not a government funded. This is not a university funded. This is not college funded. These are players taking their personal skills in the sense of their profile, their likeness. Yes, it's the ability to play a game well, but they're not getting paid to play the game. They're getting paid to be who they are in front of everyone else. Please press this message out to everyone. There's so many people out there that are very confused about this because they're not reading into it. They read the headlines and they're very confused. They're like, oh, I don't agree that colleges should play or pay their players. No, this is not what's going on. These are allowing these players to go out and find money outside the university. It is a much needed, in my opinion, a very old style of situation where colleges should have already allowed this a long, long time ago. The NCAA.
Well, they don't want you going out selling shirts that say Drew Chapman on the back. They want to sell those shirts and make all the money for you.
This is an NCAA trying to hold a monopoly in a sense of, if the word of monopoly makes sense to everyone, if they are trying to control all the business, is $1 billion corporation, and for even these players, one player that goes out and does this takes just that little bit of money away from the NCAA.
And even more than that, this is about the guy that you've never heard of playing at North Dakota State, going out to his parents' car dealership and saying, hey, I play for this local team, I can be in the commercial. Because right now, the way it stands, he can't do that. He can't go and support his parents' business or his family business because the NCAA says, we own you. That's not right. That's not right. I can't go off the rails here, Scott. This is a good thing.
Tyler says yes. Let's talk a little bit about college students getting paid.
Well, let's do it. I think the NCAA should pay them straight up to play college football. When you talk about the risk involved, I mean, you can go out there, snap your neck. You can go out there and blow out your knee and never be right for the rest of your life. Even more than that, you're generating tons and tons of revenue. And the biggest criticisms I hear from this, are people saying you're getting an education. They're giving you something. How many of these players, outside of people going to Vanderbilt or the Ivy League schools, are going there for the degree? Realistically, not too many of them. Not too many. Even if you do make it all 4 years, you're not playing for that. You're playing because I want to play the game of football. I want to do what I enjoy, and I want to take the chance of me going to the next level. Even if you're not good, in your mind, let's say I'm a bottom-tier offensive lineman. In my mind, I'm saying, I can do this. I can get to the pros if I do well. I don't care if it's North Dakota State. I don't care if it's BFE nowhere, and I'm picking on North Dakota State. I'm sorry, North Dakota State fans. But I don't care where it is. You're saying to yourself, I can make it to the pros. Otherwise, you're probably not playing at the college level. That's realistically, in the back of your mind, you're saying, I can do this. It's not right for a university to say, we're going to profit off of that. We're going to make billions and billions of dollars, and we're not going to let you have a piece of the pie when you're doing all the labor.
That fly absolutely loves you right now. I want you to also think about it like this. And guys, I listen to a lot of sports talk. I read a lot about it. I really stay away from ESPN when I possibly can, just because I'm so tired of them being money fed to tell us what they think that their sponsors want us to hear. But one of the things that I did hear, and this is the best way to put it, so these are not my words, so I'm not going to sit there and take credit for this. If you look at it in the aspect of there's other full ride scholarships out there, because a lot of people are going, these guys get free education, doesn't cost them anything, they're just playing the game, they're getting paid. Okay, so let's think about this. Let's just say you go on a full ride scholarship for playing the violin. You're getting your whole entire college paid for. Those scholarships exist. There is no restrictions or any rules against them training kids to play the violin and getting paid for it. Showing college students at that university and having them pay you for it. There's no rules against that.
Doing other shows that's outside the university.
They can go into symphonies and play in an orchestra and get paid for it, and there's no regulation against it. And they're using their skills, their likeness to get paid. I think that is really, honestly, the best way to do it, to look at it, is if those kids can do it, there should be absolutely no difference to the kids that can play basketball, can play baseball, can play football, and
could be on the track team,
and
could be on the swimming team.
They should be able to do it. And my last little thing that I really, it's not my last, but one of my things that I really also want to put into perspective here too is this might make college ball more exciting to watch, and I'll tell you why. Because when you're a 5-star recruit and you're sitting there looking, man, there's already a running back or a quarterback or a point guard that has all the local businesses in on them, and they're getting all that money on their own side, and you're going, man, I could go to Alabama, or I could go to Duke or Kentucky, but oh look, there's Chattanooga, there's
Dakota State.
There's North Dakota State, and it's an open market for him to get endorsements there locally. I'm telling you, it's going to spread the talent around, and you might not see in Alabama, you might not see Ohio State, or
you won't see the domination, because right now that's all they have to play for.
It's going to spread the talent around, because a lot of my college teams that I root for don't win a lot of championships.
Exactly. And again, now people will be incentivized to go other places. I think another group of people that are way against this are the people that don't like watching pro football, because I don't want my team to lose week in and week out. I just want to watch. I want to cheer for winners, and I don't want to upset the balance, and that is definitely not okay. Upsetting the balance when there is a wrong is the right thing to do. And right now, not paying these guys to risk life and limb, regardless of the sport, is not okay. More than that, taking away their freedom to make money on the side is like the least American thing out there. This is the free market. I don't care about the schools losing sponsorship. That's on the schools. Get competitive. It's the free market, baby. Welcome to Capitalism 101. I don't care if they want to pay the athletes instead of paying the schools. I don't care if the NCAA makes less money. I don't care anything else. These guys have the right to do it. I talked about this on another show previously if you want to see more, but I am 100% involved, 100% all in on this, that it should happen. I think we're going to see 45 states approve this in the short term.
Yeah. Neil said, what if college athletes didn't make the NFL get free health care until a certain age?
It's not about the perks. They should be allowed to make the money whenever they want. These guys are old enough to sign up for the military, go overseas, and get shot at. They're old enough to make money on their own, capitalizing on what they're good at in life. I mean, I think a lot of people, another kind of faction of people that say they shouldn't be able to do this are the people who want to be the arbiters of who gets paid and what's fair and everything else. The market decides what's fair. The market decides how much these guys should make.
I don't know about the healthcare, Neil.
I don't think it's a bad idea to give them healthcare, though.
The question is who's going to pay
it? Are the schools going to pay it? If they wanted to, they could.
Well, they're not going to. They're
Precisely.
already fighting this whole other thing.
Precisely. And that's exactly my point. Again, it comes down to, is that some kind of incentive the school wants to offer? And just because they offer that incentive, I don't think that they should be able to. That would be like your work say, well, we let you buy health insurance from us, so now you're not allowed to go out and do anything else with your free time. You're not allowed to go drive for Uber. You're not allowed to try to make any other money doing anything else you're doing. You're not allowed working a second job, regardless of what it is, because we pay you a little bit and we give you health care. I'm not for that. I'm not. I think it's a free market. This is what has made America great, and I think this is something that needs to be opened up. I think we need to look at the NCAA as they've been a corrupt organization.
Yeah.
I think the only organization out there worse than them in sports is FIFA, but we don't have time to go into FIFA.
Tyler, I hope that kind of helps you. I hope you enjoyed the discussion. Let's move on to our next group of power rankings.
All right, let's do it. Let's go with the C. You're changing gears on me again. Let's go with the C
Sorry,
category.
man.
And these are good teams, but they are beatable each and every week. That you go in and you sweat things out each and every week, regardless of whether you're playing the Miami Dolphins, the New York Jets, or whether you're playing the Patriots and the Chiefs. You're like, I don't know what's going to happen in this game. And let me tell you, my team falls in that category. It's a long list, but it starts at number 14 with the Chargers. After that, you go 15 Ravens, Panthers at 16, Colts at 17, Browns at 18, Jaguars at 19, Titans at 20, Vikings at 21. All of these teams have question marks, but all of these teams have looked very good at times this season. I think when you look at the way these guys have played, the Chargers have been the biggest disappointment. This is a team that we should be talking about top 7,
10.
top 8,
top 10
9.
for sure. Yeah. No
but
doubt.
Look at the way they've played. I mean, they lost to the Lions in a nail biter. They they lost to the Texans in a nail biter. They barely escaped some other teams. They didn't look good against the Dolphins. This is a squad that, I know your starting running back isn't there, but has underachieved. That's why they're headlining the C category for me. They could go out and beat anyone in the NFL. They could beat the Chiefs tomorrow, the Patriots, the Packers, the Bears, the Cowboys, the Saints, the 49ers, pretty much everyone we got higher on this list. They could go out and beat them this week, and then they could go lose to the Broncos, and you'd be like, yeah, it's the Chargers.
The only team that really surprised me here, and I'm not saying that they should be any higher, I just think they should be the top of this list, and that's the Ravens. And I know the Ravens just got really manhandled by the Browns just recently, but I think we all kind of knew at some point in time the Browns' offense was going to click at some point, and why wouldn't it be a division rival, a team that they're used to seeing week in and week or year in and year out? That it absolutely makes sense, in my opinion, for that team to go off on the Ravens. And we all kind of know, regardless of Earl Thomas joining that defense was going to take a step back. You don't lose that many players in that many positions and assume this defense is going to be good. Either we give John Harbaugh all the credit in the world that he could. He's like either a defensive mind genius in a sense where he's always making that
something
team,
out of nothing. 100%.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's been the Ravens so far. They lose talent, and then guess what? They stay a great defense. Finally, that seems like it's come to an end. I mean, they've given up 500 yards of offense on 2 straight weeks. They gave up over 300 to the Cardinals. I'm drawing a blank on the other. The other was Miami, and Miami didn't get there. But okay, Everybody else has dominated this Ravens defense. I think we need to finally talk about they're a team that's absolutely susceptible.
Neil's calling you out. He said the Vikings worse than the Chargers and Titans.
Yeah,
he says,
the Vikings are
please, terrible.
Okay, so they can run the ball, but as soon as you take away Dalvin Cook, what is this offense doing with Stephon Diggs, Adam Thielen, Kyle Rudolph, a rookie in Irv Smith that looks like he has talent?
And
Kirk Cousins has looked
Cook
terrible
out of the backfield as well.
Okay, but you take away Dalvin Cook, and this team is nothing. Kirk Cousins, the reason they're this low on this team or on this board is because every time they're going to play any kind of halfway decently good defense, it's going to put up 8 points, 12 points, 14 points at most. That's why they're totally susceptible. So yeah, they're worse than the Titans, who played a better offense in Atlanta and held them to 10 points. It isn't anything on the defense. The defense is good, maybe not quite great in Minnesota, but this offense under Kirk Cousins, whether you want to call it game planning, whether you want to call it anything else, has not figured it out. And it's been multiple years. Last year they threw too much, and Dalvin Cook was an afterthought, and they're like, what are we doing? And then this year they're running too much, they're not throwing with Kirk Cousins, and when they do, they look terrible. So yeah, the Vikings are the 21st team in this league at 2-2 because they cannot play any kind of offense at all.
Neil, I gotta kind of agree with Jake here. I mean, you're talking about defense that's literally had all its 11 starters the last like 2-3 years. None of these guys have gone off. They've all stayed there. They've all signed contracts to be there. They literally got one of the best safeties in the whole entire league with Harrison Smith. They got a great defensive line. They got a great linebacking core. All these and corners. You got to remember, all these guys have been together. And this defense is giving up points. I don't know if it starts with their head coach at this point, and I'm blanking on the name. I don't know why I am. Their coach.
It is, it's not Shermer. It's,
the guy with the eye out problem, but
Yeah.
he's all good now. There is an issue here. There is an issue with this team. Then you sit there and you throw in Dalvin Cook, who is one of, in my opinion, one of the best running backs that are young coming up in this league. Probably will be considered a top fantasy pick next year, and I think he should have been this year. And I talked to him like he was
Zimmer.
last year.
Zimmer.
There he goes, Mike Zimmer. This is exactly what I'm getting at, man. This is too good. You got one of the best receiving cores in Thielen and Diggs, which I think Thielen's better than Diggs. I don't know if you agree with me on that one or not.
I think they're both talented in different ways, but yeah.
But this team should not be 2-2. This team shouldn't have been whatever their record was last year. This should be a playoff team year in and year out. Neil, I get it. They should be higher. They should be better, but they're not there. If it's Zimmer, then it's Zimmer. If it's Kirk Cousins, it's Kirk Cousins. But there is a problem somewhere where this team can't win games, and this is why you got to put them this low, because regardless of all the talent in the world, if you aren't winning any games and not looking good losing, then you got a problem. That's plain and simple.
No, I'm definitely with you. But Neil's saying Kirk Cousins is the only problem. The defense is doing their job for the most part. For the most part, it's exactly right. They've been good, but they haven't been great. Again, this is a team that would be 3-1 or 4-0 if they were playing like they were when they went to the not the NFC Championship, the round before that, the divisional round where they lost to the Saints on that miracle play. This is a team that they're good on defense. Yeah, they're good, but good isn't good enough. When you're still losing games here with this offense, that's not good enough. They're not like the Bears, that it doesn't matter how bad the product and offense is, we're winning this game. Like that's where the Bears are right now. The Vikings are not that. The Vikings are reversed. We have a lot going on offense, and even though the offensive line is bad, we're going to find a way to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory. That's why they're this low. The Titans are the same way.
There's a lot of good teams out there with terrible offensive lines.
The Titans are the same way. And you could say it's Taylor Lewan not being there. That's why I have the Titans at 20, because as good as this team can be, beating teams like the Browns that everyone was falling in love with, beating teams like the Falcons, and kind of ruining a season that could be decent because they beat teams like the Eagles, they go in and lose to Gardner Minshew and Jacoby Brissett, backup quarterbacks, because they don't have the mentality to win. Thanks, Malcolm Butler. The Jaguars in the same boat. They're a good defense. Gardner Minshew's got them a couple wins, but again, who are they blowing out of the water? Leonard Fournette had a good week this week. Outside of that, Gardner Minshew's throwing for 200 yards every week.
Yeah. Tyler said, sorry, not to interrupt.
No.
Tyler said
I'm not even getting
they
these comments.
should have kept Teddy Bridgewater. Look at him now. Laugh out loud.
Well, okay, you'd be not paying him $27 million. So from that standpoint, yeah, they should have kept Teddy Bridgewater to throw you 200 yards a game instead of paying Kirk Cousins a boatload to not throw you very much in a game. I just don't understand what this Vikings team is. Again, talent-wise, they should be a lot better.
Oh, dude, they should
Realistically,
3-1, 4-0. They really honestly should.
This is a team that
but they
can't
should have been
overcome.
last year too.
Yeah.
There is a issue somewhere.
And maybe it's mentality. Maybe it's his coaching.
Neil's throwing to Kirk Cousins, but I still give. I mean, Case Keenum, quote unquote, looked good, but they didn't win nothing that really mattered. They didn't. They won that one miracle play, but then after that, they got manhandled by the Rams.
Eagles.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, in the year they won, the Eagles absolutely mauled them. Yeah,
sorry.
No, 100%. All of these teams deserve to be in the C category. The Colts, I haven't talked about them yet, so let's talk about them for a second. Again, losing to the Raiders, beating the Titans. I think this is a team that and hanging with the Chargers. It's a team that has a decently high ceiling with the offensive line looking good, the defense good at times.
It's the best offensive line in the league. Come on, just admit it.
They might be. They might be. They were last year. What did they go, like 6 or 7 weeks without giving up a sack? They were amazing.
They make Marlon Mack look like he's a decent running back.
Marlon Mack is a decent running back. He just needs a good offensive line. I think when you look at the Colts, they've got weapons, but injuries have kind of slowed this team down. If they were all healthy, we'd be talking about them being a little bit higher. Darius Leonard playing, Malik Hooker playing, T.Y. Hilton, who's banged up and may not play against the Chiefs. All three of those guys being out, this team is somewhere around middle of the pack. They're 2-2, which is exactly perfect for middle of the pack. They can beat good teams. They can lose to bad teams. I think they should have absolutely handled the Raiders, but they got off to a bad start, and then they weren't a good enough team to overcome that. I think that perfectly sums up the Colts.
Yeah, no, it does. Sandy, good to see you, man. He says, I think Cousins, Thielen, and Diggs will have a great game this week. And Neil says they should have kept Keenum. That was his first year starting with him, and they just ruined their team for years to come. But they have lost the legitimate teams, unlike
the Titans and Chargers.
Unlike the Titans and the Chargers.
Yeah, they just lose to illegitimate teams. And
that's why he's saying you can't say a team like the Titans is better after losing to Minshew and Brissett.
Okay, but they beat Matt Ryan and company, who beat the Eagles, who are a good team. They beat the Browns with an amazing offense. This Titans team is still better than the Vikings, because I think when you look at it...
Could be an amazing offense.
Well, what did they look like against the Ravens?
I think it could be.
Yeah, we're crapping on the Ravens, but they just dropped how many points on the Ravens?
Could be.
Look at all those names. This should be a good offense. And the Titans shut them down.
They did.
The Titans are better, because you know what would happen? The Titans' defense would go up against Kirk Cousins, and they'd frustrate him. They'd run the ball a little bit, and Marcus Mariota, barring too many interceptions, would probably win 17-14 against the Vikings. And I get it, the NFC North fans out there might say, hey, the Vikings are a better team because I want to feel better about beating them. But as long as you have Kirk Cousins and you don't protect him, you're not going to be a good team. This is all about strength. Going back to, was it Sandy's comment saying they should have kept Case Keenum?
No, he said Cousin Diggs are going to have a great week this year. Next week.
Somebody said they should have kept Case Keenum, but
Neil did.
My whole point, Neil, is with Case Keenum, it's all about strengths. Case Keenum is very good at avoiding pressure. He's not as good of a passer in a pocket that you would get at Kirk Cousins. So when you have a bad offensive line, who do you want under center? You want the guy who's good at avoiding pressure. What is Kirk Cousins not good at? Avoiding pressure at all. So yeah, they're worse off with Kirk Cousins because they can't protect him, but the game plan should have been, and kind of was, but it hasn't really worked, protect Kirk Cousins at all cost, run the ball a little bit more, and we'll turn into a great team. The problem is, that hasn't happened.
What's going on, James? Glad you could join us. Neil, I'm not with you here, man. I'm sorry. I cannot agree that Case Keenum is a future quarterback for any organization. And I've said this so many times. He's a great guy. I'll give you that.
He's not a $20 million guy.
He's an amazing person and deserves all of the credit given to him for being that. But what he is not is a starting quarterback in this league. And he's a good backup, and that's what the Redskins realistically are doing with him, because Alex Smith is still hurt and Haskins is not ready. He is not a starting quarterback because he played well in Denver or he played well in Minnesota. He's already kind of proven when a team has said, hey, you're our starter, move forward, it doesn't go very well. And I know Denver's not as good as the Vikings are, but the Vikings had a reason to get rid of him. They're like, even though you played well for us, you weren't what we wanted. That's something you got to think about here when you talk about Case Keenum being a legitimate starter. Is if one team doesn't want him, usually there's an issue with him. And just to put another perspective, because I brought up Alex Smith, when the 49ers moved on from Alex Smith and we picked him up, and I was like, hey, this is a good quarterback. Guess what he really couldn't do for us? That was win playoff games. There is a reason why teams let other quarterbacks go.
Now, James wants to talk about the Steelers. We'll go over that just really quick. We did talk about them. They're in our D category, which is they're not a good team, but they could have a good day. We saw that against the Bengals. I think when you look at the Steelers, they're going to need offensive improvement in and off season to be a legitimate threat again. I think we're kind of figuring out that Mason Rudolph is not a franchise quarterback. Maybe he can kind of float the team along, but with Big Ben coming back, they're not going to be very good. They're great at run defense. Secondary-wise, they need help. They had a great game against the Bengals, and that was a game that I was predicting the Bengals to go wild in the passing game. They pretty much kept them in check. Steelers, if you're a fan, you tread waters the next season. You may win a couple more big games here. You may wind up with picks 6 through 10, but I think the Steelers are treading water at this point, and you need Big Ben to either come back, or you need to get a high enough pick that maybe you can go take a quarterback to eventually replace a guy like Roethlisberger.
Neil says he has a question. Would you rather see a guy like Keenum able to pay them, spend money, and make a team around him better and keep great players, or have a guy like Cousins that the salary and you have to with that salary and have a lot of other guys walk away and you're just left with a dock?
Well, here's the problem. When Case Keenum left the Vikings, the Broncos paid him $20 million a year. Or what was it, $18 million a year? They paid Case Keenum like a fortune. And that was the problem with the Vikings. They said, we like Case Keenum and what he's done for us, but we don't like him at $18 million, $20 million. I forget what the actual number was. The Broncos paid him a ton of money and then cut base. It was only for 2 years, but they paid him a ton of money. The Vikings said, if we're going to spend the money, we might as well get the quote-unquote better quarterback. And Kirk Cousins is the better quarterback. Yeah. You just need to play to his strengths, which is he needs to drop back, stand in a pocket, and throw the ball.
Yeah, because you look at him, what he played in Washington, and trust me, he
made Deshaun Jackson and Pierre Garçon look like they were some of the best receivers in football. They were like one of the teams that had joint 1,000-yard receivers every year for only a couple times in NFL history. You can do it as long as you protect him. You know what Washington had? A great offensive line, and they protected him.
Agreed.
So I would rather have the cheap quarterback and keep everybody. But the problem is, Case Keenum wasn't the cheap quarterback.
Hold up. Let's not forget that Minnesota did keep everyone. And they could have kept him and kept everyone around him. Minnesota didn't want him. That is the best way for me to put it. And I know, Neil, you're not fighting for him and saying he's a great quarterback because you're a Tom Brady fan. But my point is they had an opportunity to keep that guy around, and they were like, you're not good enough to be our quarterback. We're going to go pay this other guy a lot more money, and you're going to see the road. And usually, maybe minus I know for a fact, Peyton Manning, when he got booted from the Colts and won off a Super Bowl with the Broncos, realistically, when a quarterback is let go, it's usually for a very honest reason.
And you can say Brett Favre if you want to be contrarian. Once in a while, it bites you in the ass. Right. More often than not, they're letting him go for a reason. James also says, yeah, they look like shit. Or, shoot, he said, but I think he meant shit. Talking about the Steelers. Look at the Texans. I love my team, but we need a coach. Don't give up on the Steelers just yet, James. I think roster-wise, this is the letdown. I think this offense has needed some refreshing for a while. Losing Antonio Brown and Le'Veon Bell is never easy to replace. Again, don't point at Mason Rudolph and be like, this guy can't be a backup quarterback or he's terrible. You're going to see some struggling out of this guy. Losing Mike Munchak, coaching this offensive line, has hurt the Steelers. This is a team that's now in a rebuild mode. They need to find a way to refresh this offense. They need to get some guys in the back half of the secondary, and then we're going to be talking about the Steelers being good again. So it's going to be tough sledding. Everyone's going to make fun of the Steelers because they're a popular team. Hang in there. That's all I can say.
Let's go into our next group of teams.
Our next group of teams we have in the B, which are playoff contenders maybe, but not Super Bowl contenders. These are guys that they'll win games. They'll go 10-6. They'll go 9-7. They may go 12-4 because of their division, but they're realistically not teams that have a chance to win the Super Bowl. And I think the top level of this is the 49ers at number 7. This is a team sitting at 3-0. The difference this year versus years past has been the defense has made clutch plays. Jimmy G has been bad at times, he's been good at times, but good teams overcome, and that's what they've done so far. I think when they're sitting at 3-0 and they had the Week 4 bye, you have to look at the 49ers and say this team is a legitimate threat to make the playoffs. And Steven says, woo, Raiders. Yeah, I mean, I have them at 24. They're not too far off, right? That's better than I thought the Raiders were going to be this year, to give them credit. They're a team that can surprise some teams this year. Get to 6 wins. I think you call it a win if you're the Raiders.
I want to go through your list here.
Sure.
You got starting at the top at B, you got 49ers, Seahawks, Texans, Eagles, Rams, Bills, Lions to end up the B category group.
I'm just not in on Detroit yet. I know everybody's all in on Detroit. I'm just not there yet. They played the Chiefs well, but it took 5 fumbles to get there. Right? If you take 2 of those fumbles away, did the Chiefs keep this close? And they look good. They got up for the occasion. I think they're well coached. I think defensively they look much better than they were, especially missing a lot of their stars like Darius Slay last week. But, I'm sorry, Ian, but, I don't think roster-wise the Lions are there yet. I just don't see it.
I'm still in shock, and I know they have not lost a game.
And I knew he'd comment on this. Let's see what happens.
It's the 49ers being at number 7. I'm okay with them being in this list. I'm okay with it because they have not lost a game. But how in the world can you put them at number 7?
Who's it, the 49ers?
Yes.
Because defensively they're making plays. Jimmy G's looked good in stretches. The running game is back for the first time since Kyle Shanahan has got there. Breida and Mossert look good.
They do.
I think they're still a team with some flaws, which is why they kind of headline this category. But they've won 3 games, Drew. They've looked very good up till now. The defense is looking good. This is what Kyle Shanahan needs is an offense. He needs some more playmakers, but he needs a defense that's halfway decent, and he needs a running game that's halfway decent, and they're going to turn the passing game loose eventually. Do I think they're the best team in football? No, but I think the way they've started, you got to give them credit. They're 3-0. The defenses look good. Jimmy G's look good at times. The running games look good.
Right.
They have had all facets of football firing. Maybe not at the same time, but they've had all facets of football firing in games.
All right, let's talk about their next 3 games so that they.
But Steven's saying they're overrated beyond belief. Maybe so. But right now,
let's talk
I got to
about
give
the
credit.
next 3 games. Let's talk about the next 3 games. And Neil says the Niners deserve to be there. They have beat the Brown. They will beat the. If they beat the Browns, okay, I'm sorry, they will be a legitimate contender for the playoffs. Hold on,
This division's
the
tough.
Browns aren't even that good yet. Okay.
Ask the Ravens, are they any good?
No, they're yet. I'm
Ask the
telling you
Titans
yet.
if they're any good.
Listen. So they play.
So you just got
Monday
done
night.
crapping on the Titans who dominated the Browns, but you're telling me that they have to beat the Browns to be legit? Am I getting that right, Neil?
He did.
Am I getting that right?
Okay, let's talk about these next 3 games just real quick because
Sure.
I want to point them out here. So they go on Monday night. They play the Cleveland Browns in San Francisco. Then they go on the road to play the Rams, which will be a tough game. And then
Maybe.
And then they go across the United States to play in Washington against the Washington Redskins. If they go 2-1
Yeah.
in this stretch,
And they should.
I will give you that they're legitimate. But I'm going to tell you right now, I don't see that happening.
You know who else we're saying is legitimate?
I don't see it happening.
The Buffalo Bills. And you know who the Buffalo Bills have played fewer opponents in? The 49ers. I think Buffalo looked good at times, and I'm sorry, Steven, if you're watching this.
See you, James. Good to see you, man.
Absolutely. The other Steven, by the way, not Steven Koalas, the other Steven.
Steve.
I think when you look at this, we give out the Bills all the credit in the world. Yeah, they played the Patriots tough, and they beat up on the Jets, and they beat up on the Giants, and they beat up on, what was it? Not Miami. The Bengals. Oh, yeah. No, they didn't beat up on them. They escaped them. And we're saying the Bills are a good team. But you're not going to give credit to the 49ers?
Dude.
And yeah, it may crash and burn, right? They could crash and burn. But right now, this defense is playing well. The running game's working. Jimmy G's good at times. He's bad at times. We'll ignore that part because this is part of my argument. But Jimmy G's look good at times.
Neil, I'm sorry. Neil, I did not say Baker Mayfield was the MVP. I said that he's a good quarterback and will be great at some point in time. I did not say he was an MVP. The only MVP is wearing red and gold, buddy. Red and gold. That's Patrick Mahomes. He'll be the MVP again this year, too. Just letting you know.
Also, Neil said he was talking about the Titan losses, not wins. He said you lost to the Jags and Colts with no QB. Guess what the Titans have?
No QB.
No QB. Exactly.
Yeah, there's no
they got a
QB there.
defense. So, yeah, they lose to teams with no quarterback, but play defense or play well. The Colts one was unforgivable to me. The Jaguars one was just classic Titans where the defense kind of stepped up and frustrated our offense. It had nothing to do with Gardner Minshew. Gardner Minshew scored a touchdown off of a fumble that he got inside the 7-yard line. Good job. And then had one drive where he scored a touchdown.
A lot of quarterbacks
Two
can't
fields.
do that, though.
No, not a lot of quarterbacks. Some quarterbacks can't do that. Backup quarterbacks can't do that. Okay? Look, the Jaguars' loss was all about the defense dominating the Titans' offense, and that happens. They're missing Taylor Lewan, who should have been protecting. They're playing with Marcus Mariota. That's going to happen at times. The Colts was unforgivable. I'll give you that, Neil. At the end of the day, they've beaten good teams and lost to bad teams. That's classic Titans for you, and they're going to wind up 9-7.
Neil, I guess I'm going to need you to pull up that video because I do not remember saying Baker Mayfield will be an MVP candidate. That does not sound familiar. But I've done a lot of crazy things as I'm drinking beer, so Neil, you might be right. But I'm telling you right now, in this drunken state, that I do not remember saying that, and I don't think that that is correct.
Now, Steven's saying they may beat Washington. That's it. The 49ers, he still sees maybe going 6 or 7 wins. So you're talking about 3-10 for the rest of the season? Or 4-9? Steven, that's tough, man. A 3-0 record, they're probably going to get to 8. If this is a mid-tier team, and I think they are, but if this is a
Tevin
mid-tier
Coleman
team,
can play this next week,
and they've been good without him.
And they've been good without him, so they're only going to get that much better. Because I'm sorry, Tevin Coleman's a better running back than Breida and the other guy with the
Maybe he used to be. I don't know anymore.
But I can't imagine them losing that many games because one thing they do have is a great defensive line. I think this team with Kyle Shanahan calling the offensive plays, as long as Jimmy Garoppolo stays healthy, I can see this team possibly scraping into a wild card spot. To win the division, no. I think that's either the Rams or the Seahawks. I know the Rams have looked absolutely atrocious so far, but the Seahawks, they'll pull themselves out for sure. This is a solid team. I completely believe in Russell Wilson over Jared Goff or Jimmy G. The Seahawks are going to win that division if the Rams don't.
And Tyler says he's heard some talk about making Mahomes the highest paid quarterback in the league. It's going to happen. Just wait. But then again, if I'm Patrick Mahomes or I'm his agent or I'm his father or I'm anyone that's close to him, I would say, Pat, take $25 million. You're going to make a ton of money in endorsements. You already got that State Farm commercial you're in. Go make money off the field, take a deal on the field, and make this Chiefs team as good as humanly possible. Can you imagine if this team had half of a defense?
Dude,
can you imagine this team playing with the 49ers defense right now? They would be unbeatable. This would be Super Bowl 3 years straight, 4 years straight. I'm telling you, that's what I would say. It's not going to happen. It's the first contract. He's going to say, make me the highest paid quarterback. It's great for the ego. I get to feel good. Protect the team.
Neil, your team barely put up any points against the Bills, a team you should be dominating. And
a lot of other teams barely put up any points against the Bills.
No, hold on. This is a division rival, and your quarterback threw 150 yards with an interception in that win. Okay? Just think about that before we get to number one, all right? And you better stick around because you got to prove me wrong that I said
I guess you'll have to wait and find out.
Baker Mayfield is an MVP. I never said that.
Let me crap on
Neil, you're drunk.
Let me kind of crap on the Rams and the Eagles a little bit. These are teams that should be better than they are. Again, you look at the way they played, but the Eagles can't stop anybody through the air. The Rams can't stop anybody seemingly at all. And then the Rams' offense has not been firing. I think both those teams being 10 and 11 right now have something to prove. They should be better than they are. I know Eagles fans are going to get upset about that, but you can't argue the fact you lost to teams like Atlanta that you're good because you beat the Packers, who are a good team. Packers are a good team, but if Devontae Adams plays in that second half, you're probably 1-3. I think the Eagles have a lot of questions to solve in that secondary, and they just traded Jonathan Cyprien away, who may not be any good, but now you're still subtracting from a already bad secondary.
Yeah, Neil, you guys should have lost to the Bills. They haven't been good since '94. The Bills.
I think he struck a nerve.
No,
that's okay.
Me and Neil are arguing. We're fine.
I also have the Texans and the Seahawks at number 8 and number 9. These are both very, very good teams. I think they'll show up more often than not. But again, the Texans losing to the Panthers, losing to the Saints, been letting them come back after you had that touchdown, 30 seconds left to go in the game, and you let the Saints come back, kick the field goal to beat you. This is not a complete team. This is a team that's very good, but still has a lot to questions. They have to keep the hits off Deshaun Watson. They haven't done a good job of that so far.
All right, let's go into our final category.
Let's talk about it. We'll go from 6 up because I know there's some controversy here. Number 6, these are Super Bowl threats. These are teams that 100% need to be in there. Number 6 for me is the Saints. And you kind of gave me some flack before the show for putting the Cowboys at number 5 ahead of them. The reason I'm going to put them ahead of them is 12-10. It was a bad day for the Cowboys. I think if you play that game 1,000 times, the Cowboys probably win 600 or 700 of them. I think the Cowboys did not show up. I don't think they played very well. I think they said it was Teddy Bridgewater. We've got this. And the Saints defense won the day. I think the Cowboys are still the better team right now with Teddy at quarterback. That all changes when Drew Brees comes back. But this is a power ranking. It's about where the teams are right now. I think the Saints right now with Teddy Bridgewater are still only the 6th best team in the league.
Steven says the Bills haven't been good since 1994. The Lions have never been good. No one asked you, Steven, Raiders fan. No one.
Well, the Bills made the playoffs in 2 years ago?
The Lions were a winning
with
record,
Tyrod Taylor.
And they went to playoffs. What was it like?
Long time ago.
2007?
7, 8,
something
6,
like that.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. It's been a while. I think if you look at this set, I have Cowboys at 5, Saints at 6. After that, I have the Bears at number 4.
He has been drinking Natty Ice to put the Cowboys at 5.
The Bears are number 4, the Packers are number 3, the Patriots are number 2, and the Chiefs are number 1. Let me just keep breaking it down here for you. The Cowboys, when you look at the way they played, we don't know who they are. For now, I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt. I'm going to say it was a bad game against good opposition for the first time this season. They've dominated up till now. They've looked much refreshed. I know you're going to say they're playing bad teams, but you have to beat those bad teams, and they've done it emphatically pretty much every game through. They had a bad day against the Saints. They're not the first team to have a bad day against the Saints. Just ask the Rams. Sure. I think when you look at the way this game was played, the Cowboys still need to be ranked ahead of a Teddy Bridgewater-led team, even though I don't love Dak Prescott. The rest of this Cowboys team needs to be ahead. Let's talk about the Bears. Or let's go into the comments here. Sandy's saying the Bears, come on, man. It doesn't matter who's quarterback. It doesn't. This defense is that good. This is the 4th best team regardless. You could put any quarterback in the NFL under center, short of Nathan Peterman, who's going to throw 12 picks.
Dude.
And this is the fourth best team in the league because Khalil Mack, Akeem Hicks, and the rest of this defense are going to maul whoever's in front of them. And I'm only saying maul because I can't swear on here. That's it. They are going to dominate every other team in the NFL. It doesn't seem to matter who it is. Maybe the Chiefs stand a chance. Maybe the Patriots stand a chance. Outside of those two teams, I'm looking at this. I'm saying they kept the Packers in check. And they needed, 7 more points, and they would have beat the Packers.
Neil, I'm glad you joined the show this evening, and glad you could join us. I know that you have a busy schedule, and you're still right here with us, man. We appreciate it.
It doesn't matter how good your team is. When you have a defense as good as the Bears, how good your offense is, when you have a team like the Bears, you got to put up 16 points with Chase Daniels and you can beat a decent team like the Vikings. They're not a good team, but they're a decent team. Well, they hit my C category, which is a good team, but every week you're sweating it out. The Vikings are still a good team. And they won with Chase Daniel. And they didn't just win. I mean, they shut down Stephon Diggs. They shut down Adam Thielen. They shut down Kirk Cousins and Dalvin Cook. These are big names. And they took them out of the game. They didn't just take one of them out. Usually that's what good defenses do. They take the best player out. They take Julio Jones out of the game. They take Antonio Brown out of the game. And then it's whatever happens with everyone else. They took everybody else out of the game. That's why the Bears are number 4 right now.
Yeah, Sandy, I don't know. He says dominate, question mark.
What about the Bears' defense has not been dominant? Explain that to me.
That's my question. Regardless who's at quarterback, and honestly, I don't think there's a significant loss in talent between Trubisky so far and Chase Daniels, and that's not because I don't think Trubisky can be better than Chase Daniels. I think he can. I think there's an issue with the offense. I don't know if it's Matt Nagy or if it's Trubisky, but there seems to be some kind of discord between the quarterback and the play calling because there's issues. There's no doubt about it. You don't start the season against the Packers and do well on the run game and then end up throwing 45 times. You don't do that. There's something going on there that's not going right. But when you look at the other side of the ball, that defense, I'm literally going to go out on a limb and say you can match them up to the 85 Bears. You can match them up to the 2000 Ravens. This defense is just they're crazy. They are monsters in midfield and Soldier Field. They are literally going to crush any offensive line. And earlier in this episode, at the very beginning, I said that another media platform out there said that the most likely Super Bowl is the Patriots, the Cowboys, and it's not the Patriots that I laughed about. It's the fact that everyone's sleeping on this Bears team.
Yeah,
this defense is amazing, and if the Cowboys can get the Super Bowl because of whatever they have on defensive, so could the Bears. The Bears have every right to be considered a top contender in the NFC.
Now, Tyler says the Saints are still a complete team without Breeze. Look, I'll give you this. They're a very good team, but complete doesn't put 12 points on the board, even against the Cowboys, who have been good at times, have been bad defensively at times this year. I don't think this is a complete team, not without Drew Brees. You need the quarterback to be a complete team, and I think the Saints are still a step behind that. I think even though they beat the Cowboys last week, I don't think they beat the Cowboys consistently with Teddy Bridgewater at quarterback. Maybe this is me dogging Teddy, right? I'm not a Teddy Bridgewater guy.
You're not.
I don't think the world of Teddy Bridgewater. I think if you put Teddy Bridgewater on the Bears, this is like the second, or this is still a team in the same spot. This is a team that can absolutely dominate regardless of who's the quarterback. I think if they had a halfway decent quarterback, if Mitch Trubisky gets to be the 15th best quarterback, if this is Derek Carr at quarterback for the Bears, this is the best team in the football.
Yeah, probably.
Or second, right? Maybe behind the Chiefs, maybe behind the Patriots, but this is the best defense we've seen in years. In a time where defense is not allowed to be played. When you're talking about all the penalties that come out, when you talk about how hard it is to lay a hit on a guy anymore, you can't just go rough up a quarterback anymore. This is still the best defense we've seen maybe since the 85 Bears. This has been amazing.
Maybe
the 49ers. Maybe the 49ers and the Ravens back when they went to the Super Bowl can rival that. Beyond that,
throw week one
it's the Bears
out.
defense.
And I get everyone's like, you can't throw it out in the sense of it still was a game they lost. You're right.
But they lost at 13-3, 13-6, whatever it was.
But you also have to look
10-3. I forget what it was.
You also have to look at the fact that Tom Brady threw for 150 yards and an interception, no touchdowns. Patrick Mahomes threw for 300 yards and 0 touchdowns and 0 interceptions. Neither of these teams had great outings, even though they won. The problem is with the Bears is their offense doesn't have Patrick Mahomes, doesn't have Tom Brady. if they had one of these guys, there would be no question mark about who's number one. This defense is that good and that serious. And to be honest with you, I'm surprised they're at number 4. I think they should be a little bit higher, but because they lost their starting quarterback and they are starting with their second string, even though I don't think there's a huge difference, you can't put them up that high. You just can't.
Ian's saying the Bears aren't even the best team in that division. He says the Lions were how low? I needed to laugh. The Lions are at 13. The Bears are at 4. And the Lions had a great game against the Chiefs.
They did.
So you could point to that. But again, if I put this Lions team up against the Bears right now, Matt Stafford's going to make a lot of mistakes. Again, it doesn't matter who's playing offense. Eventually they're going to put up 15 points because it's the NFL. And the Bears probably win with 15 points. I'm with Neil's point saying they haven't given up 15 points since week 12. This has been like one of the best defensive stretches we've seen in the modern game since 2010 when or 11 or whatever it was when the 49ers had that good of a defense. This Bears defense, I can't sing enough of his praise. They're the only reason they're there. And I think Khalil Mack might be the only reason they're there. If you take him out and they drop to the 6th or 7th best defense, we're not talking about the Bears being a top 5 team. This is about one defensive player in a time and place where we don't talk about defensive players making that big of a difference in the league.
Matthew, I'm glad you appeared on our show, man. He said Vikings are disappointing, and he's not happy to say that.
Well, we have them at 21, and this is exactly what we were talking about before. They're a good team that's beatable every week. You go into this sweating every week.
Matthew, check out earlier in the show, we debated the Vikings quite a bit. You'll enjoy the debate, man. By all means, go back and watch it. But we do got to move forward. Who do you have at number 3?
At number 3, I have the Packers. And again, everyone wants to crap on them now that they lost a game to the Eagles, who are a good team in my opinion. Maybe not the best, but I think if Devontae Adams plays 2 halves last week, the Packers probably win. They lost by a touchdown, and it was almost a fluke at the end where they were going to tie the game, and they just had the ball bounce up in the air that turned into an interception. Right. I think the Eagles are a good team. I'm not taking anything away from them here, but I think the Packers, the way they played, are slightly more complete than a team like the Bears.
Yeah, when you have Aaron Rodgers at helm and you have a defense that seems to improve itself, this is definitely a team that should be. I mean, he's a Super Bowl winning quarterback. There's no reason you should ever take that away from him. I know that this is long beyond the debate. I'm not trying to start this up, but it's the same thing I bring up with Eli Manning.
So shut up, Jake.
He won 2 Super Bowls. This should always be in consideration. Yeah, he might not be the world beater, but you know what Aaron Rodgers still is, or at least we believe he still is he's that world beater.
Yeah. Now, Steven says Kirk Cousins is the issue for the Vikings. That team is loaded, but Cousins is terrible. Then again, I'm going to say if you take Kirk Cousins and put him on the Colts or you put him on the Cowboys, where they're actually going to protect him a little bit, we could be talking about one of those teams being a legitimate Super Bowl contender.
True.
It's all in. You need to play to your quarterback's weaknesses and strengths. The Vikings offensive line has done nothing to protect this guy. And when you go and play the Bears, and now the Packers look like they can rush the passer, and the Lions' defense is much improved, it's hard to win the division when your quarterback's a guy who needs to be protected and is not going to move.
Steven says the Raiders will upset the Bears this weekend 20-14.
If they're going to upset them, it's going to be like 10-6. That's all I can say. 20-14 seems pretty liberal when you talk about what the Oakland Raiders have looked like on offense and what the Chicago Bears have looked like on defense. I don't know that I want to give the Raiders 20 points. If I can take the under on that pick, I'll take the under. I think it all depends on Trubisky and how bad he's hurt. I know his shoulder injury is messed up. They said it was dislocated during the game. I don't think he's going to play for a few weeks. Probably going to get Chase Daniel. I think it stays low scoring. I think it stays close, but I'll take Bears.
Tyler says, feel the playoffs are starting to form in some divisions. What do we think?
It always feels that way, and then we go to this like 4 to 8 week, and things get turned on their heads in the NFL. You have the AFC South that's just a mess. The NFC South is a mess. You have the NFC East that's still kind of in contention, even though the Redskins look like they're bad, but the Giants look like they're revitalized. The NFC North is anyone's game. I think all those teams are good, and all of them could win it. NFC West, you've got 3 good teams. I think. You got 2 at 3, or 1 at 3-0, 2 at 3-1. The NFC West is up for grabs. AFC wise, things spread out a little bit. The AFC North seems pretty bad. I think we're probably going to get either Ravens or Browns. I think it's probably going to be Browns the way it's looked with the Ravens defense. AFC West, I'll grind it through. AFC West looks like Chiefs, and then the Chargers may pull it together to make the playoffs. The AFC South, again, crapshoot. Who the hell knows who's good and who isn't? And then in the AFC East, there is and always has been the Patriots and everybody else. The Bills may make it too. I still think you got some questions. We're starting to see a little bit of bad teams kind of fall out of contention, but for the most part, I think it's anyone's game, or most teams' game. How about that? There's probably 20 teams that can make the playoffs right now. 22.
Guys, I appreciate all your comments. It means the world to us, but we got to keep moving. I got family in town, man. I got to go see.
And Sandy says he wants some of what I'm smoking. I'm always ripped. Whenever I come out here to talk to you guys, I'm always
Let's
ripped.
talk about the number 2 team on your list.
Yeah, you would want to talk about them because they're not your Chiefs. In my opinion, they're the Patriots. This all comes down to last week as well as the rest of them. Patriots have run the ball well. They play defense well, blah, 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 blah. And then Tom Brady looked human. And then the Chiefs' defense made a couple plays. And then they overcame 5 turnovers, which probably doesn't happen every week. And the Chiefs were still missing their best receiver in Tyreek Hill.
3 turnovers.
Wasn't it 5 fumbles, 3 turnovers?
But that was total.
Okay, all right, my mistake. Fine. They overcame 3 turnovers. Whoa.
Throw
that out.
Get
That's
your
not
number
impressive anymore.
straight if you're going to talk that beat. Tyler, get him. Rip him a new one.
I think the Patriots have to be number 2 here. And I think if you even go all the way back to the AFC Championship here, and you say if the Chiefs would have played a full game, who probably wins? I'd probably say the Chiefs. Or D Ford's not offsides. I'd probably say the Chiefs. And believe me, I'd love to say the Chiefs are number 7 right now just to see how red Drew's face can get. But I have to give them credit. They overcame a ton of adversity against the Lions last week when they were giving up fumbles and everything else. I think the Chiefs are the best team in the game right now. And that hurts me to say, but I think the Chiefs are the best team in the game right now. And I think the Patriots can beat them. I think 1 and 2 is the far runaway here. I think this should be the Super Bowl if we're taking the 2 best teams. Chiefs, Patriots, right now, I want to see them play, and I want to see who's actually best. But that's not the way the NFL works.
And you'll get that chance.
In the divisional round, the Chiefs wind up bombing out and then have to play them in the second round. But, no, I'm kidding. These are the 2 best teams in football. And there's no other way to say it.
Neil says the reigning defending Super Bowl champs are undefeated and they aren't your number 1.
Undefeated,
That is crazy.
Tom Brady threw 150 yards against the Bills.
Hold on.
And it took a punt return to beat Matt Barkley.
Okay, hold on. When the Eagles won the Super Bowl and Week 1 started, you're going to sit there and tell me that you didn't have the Eagles number 1? Because I know you didn't. I know you didn't. I know you had the Patriots number 1. Don't give me that. Just because the Patriots are your team and they are undefeated, out of those 2 games, okay, let's week 1 to week 3 we're gonna throw out of the water because we're both 3-0, right? Chiefs are 3-0, Patriots are 3-0. Regardless who you play, let's throw it out of the water. We're both facing teams that have not lost a game yet. But you throw your quarterback out there, he threw 150 yards and an interception, and your team around it looked absolutely terrible. Everything looked terrible.
Offensively. Defensively, they look stout.
But we all know what the Bills are.
Yeah.
That's
true.
We all know what the Bills are offensively, and they don't have their starting quarterback either.
But we don't dish Josh Allen the same way we dish Lamar Jackson. Fair? I don't know. I mean, Matt Barkley looked about as good to me as Josh Allen did all day long.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
So moving forward, we go into the Chiefs and Lions game. Lions are undefeated. Their defense looks completely different. Their offense looks like they can put up some points. And we still match them point for point, and we win the game. Should the Bills have won that game? Probably. Should the Lions win that game? Probably. But who looked better winning out of which game? I'm sorry, man. The Chiefs at this point looked better winning that terrible game than the Patriots looked winning that terrible game. That's the only reason. If he would have came to me and it was completely opposite and we won a game 13-10 and they won 34-30, I'd sit there and tell you that he's crazy and that the Patriots need to be number 1.
And Neil also says, Josh Allen went out in the 4th quarter. Don't use that excuse. We're not using that excuse. We're going the exact opposite direction, saying Matt Barkley, backup quarterback nobody seems to want, looked as good as the starting quarterback did in Buffalo. Maybe we're saying the Buffalo starting quarterback wasn't that good. I don't think anyone has said Matt Stafford's a bottom 5 quarterback. You could say Josh Allen is a bottom 5 quarterback because of his passing ability. And I know that's going to hurt Buffalo Bills fans' feelings because they like the way he runs the ball and he wins games. But he wins games with an amazing defense. He doesn't win the game because he's Patrick Mahomes and he says, I'm just going to go throw for 300 yards this game. Has Josh Allen thrown for 300 yards in his career? I don't know. He probably has. But this is not a passing offense, and that's what seems to play in 2019. The defense is great in Buffalo. I give them that. But when you hold Tom Brady to 150 yards, 0 touchdowns, 1 interception, I got to go Chiefs here. Because at the very least, they stayed true to themselves, right? They scored a lot of points. Even though they gave up a lot of points, they scored anyway. I look at the Patriots. They seem pretty frustrated against this Bills defense all day. And this is definitely kind of... And you look at the Miami game. Miami hung with them for about half a game. Yeah. Does Miami hang with the Chiefs for about half a game? Or do the Chiefs score 36 points and then decide, we're done, let's let them get back in this game and play no defense, play prevent victory defense, and let them pass all over us? That's the Chiefs. I'll go right now. If I had to pick, I'll go Chiefs 51, Patriots 49.
Yeah, I'm not
maybe score 2.
When I sit there and tell you that the Chiefs are number 1, the Patriots are 2, it's not because I don't think the Patriots are worthy of being up at number 1. But you're going to sit there and compare the last 2 games. Offensively, defensively, you got to give it to the Chiefs. You do, because what if you scored 13 points against the Chiefs? Guess what? They just scored 34. Yeah, there's 2 different defenses. I get that. And you're sitting there saying, don't forget about the playoffs. Well, if it wasn't for one penalty, Tom Brady throws 3 interceptions and loses the game, and the Chiefs are in the Super Bowl. Then everyone's talking about Tom Brady if he's lost a step. I know, Steven, you're sitting there saying you don't like my team. That's fine. But right now, week 4, the Chiefs are a better team than the Patriots. And I'm not playing favoritism here.
And I'm neutral here. Again, I would love to say both these teams suck because I can't stand either one of them. Can't stand them because Drew's always telling me how great Patrick Mahomes is and rubbing that in my face when my quarterback's throwing for 220 yards and we're like, we should keep him. We should pay him $30 million. And I can't stand the Patriots because it's the same kind of deal. Tom Brady's the best quarterback to ever play, but he's had all this kind of help to win these Super Bowls. Blah, 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 blah. They're both great. All right, they're both better than my team. I don't care. Chiefs are better than Patriots right now by an edge. And it's by an edge. And again, like I said, this is 1 and 2. This should be the Super Bowl. This should be the 2 teams we see in the best game in the NFL. But that's not the way the schedule's set up. They play in the same conference. The AFC Championship this year, unless my Titans make it, will probably be the most interesting game in football. So, again, these are 2 teams very close to each other. They both kind of struggled in different ways in Week 4 against tough opponents. And tougher opponents than we thought the Lions were. Shout out to Ian. Good call on that one, man, because I didn't see it this offseason. Before we round out the show, Drew, though, I
got to get to Steven's comment because he said Oakland hung in with Kansas City to start the game.
They did.
Do you think they would against New England? No way. He says, laugh his butt off. Miami is a division rival in New England and always plays them well. I don't understand that, dude. So does
division rival, but Buffalo hung in. Let me ask you this: Buffalo hung in with the Patriots. Do you think they do that against the Chiefs? No way. No way. That defense doesn't hold up against Patrick Mahomes. Same argument, different division.
Yeah.
Except you're talking offense versus defense. I'll give you this, Steven. You're right. I think the Oakland Raiders would have got dominated by the Patriots, and I think the Buffalo Bills would have got dominated by the Kansas City Chiefs. Because as good as that defense is, nobody keeps this Chiefs offense off the board. Nobody. Except far. Oakland in 3 quarters. And again, divisional game.
Put up 28 points.
And again, divisional game. I think that is 100% what sums it up.
It is. That's exactly what my point is you could sit there and say that no way Miami is a division rival. Dude, so Oakland plays Kansas City hard. Denver plays Kansas City hard. Chargers play Kansas City hard. It's all when it comes to division, I think you have
Miami beats the Patriots. How often does Miami beat other teams?
They did last year. I mean, they did
well, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, Miami beats the Patriots. Does Miami teams last year beat a lot of... Well, they won 7 games. I take it back. Adam Gase, best quarterback or best coach in the NFL. Again, it comes down to divisional games. You see each other, and you get up for those games. I think that's exactly what happened for both for the Patriots at least. I think the Bills got up to them, but do the Bills give the Chiefs any headaches? No. Do the Raiders give the Patriots probably any headaches? Probably not. I think the Raiders probably stand a better chance of giving the Patriots headaches than the Bills stand a chance of beating the Chiefs. And again, that's kind of what tips my decision here. I think the Chiefs defense would make Josh Allen throw those 3 picks again, or those 3 turnovers. And I don't necessarily know that Oakland has as bad of a day as Buffalo had against them offensively. So take this as a compliment to your team. I think that Oakland plays the Patriots better than the Bills play the Chiefs. No offense, Bills fans.
I can give you that.
I think this is just all divisional matchups.
He says, Steven says exactly that's what I'm saying. You act like Miami playing New England well for a half means something. You guys stated Kansas City will blow away Miami. You literally stated exactly what I'm saying. Yeah, Kansas City would blow away Miami. So what? that's not a division rival like Miami is to New England.
And you could say the Broncos have hung with them.
But that's the
at
same
times.
thing you're talking about with the Raiders, where they held Kansas City scoreless for 3 quarters, but that one quarter they put up 28 points. I mean, this is. I guess my point is, Steven, is exactly how can you consider right now throw the Super Bowls out of the water, throw the records against each other out of the water, Week 4 ending, going into Week 5, how can you put the Patriots above Kansas City? Because no team has been able to stop Kansas City from scoring 30 points. That's what I'm asking you. Because so far, New England has been shut down as far offensively goes. That's where my thing is. When we're talking about Week 4, I'm throwing the whole fact out of the water that my team is one of the top ones. I don't care about that. I will literally put my team at 32 if I believe that's the case.
Titans sitting at 20, just saying.
So that's my question to you, Steven, is you could throw division rivals in there, but Oakland should play Kansas City better. The Bills should play New England better, but no one has set Kansas City back to only 13 points. That's what I'm getting at. That's why they're number 1.
I agree. And if they didn't have Antonio Brown, I'm just saying the Dolphins probably would have beat the Patriots. I'm kidding. Absolutely joking. Look, guys, again, we're splitting hairs here. These are 2 great teams. This is the Super Bowl. This should be the best
I
game
wish
in
this
football.
could be the Super Bowl.
And it should be. Or from on the field perspective,
Yeah.
these are the 2 best teams in football.
Yes.
And I think it's a wide gap. I think
Yes.
Packers, Bears, Cowboys, Saints, all these teams we talked about, probably not beating Chiefs and Patriots. I think right now I'm gonna give the edge to the Chiefs. And again, I don't care. I don't particularly care about either one of these teams. They're all probably gonna finish better than mine. So what do I care? I got to go Chiefs by an edge. And it's not just because I'm sitting next to Drew. Believe me, I'd love to dunk on Drew and be like, Patrick Mahomes isn't that good. The Chiefs suck. Whatever. I'm not going to do that. I can't do that. Not realistically, I can't tell you right now I'm taking 42-year-old Tom Brady, who seems like he's winding down, versus Patrick Mahomes, who seems like he's only getting better.
Yeah. Steven, I wish you could come to Nashville, man, and be on the show with us. It'd be great to debate that with you guys. But we got to get out of here. I got family I got to go see. Let's end this show on a great note. It was a wonderful show. Again, I appreciate all the comments, likes, and shares. It means the world to us.
Power rankings are always hard.
I do want to give a shout out to Jacob, Ty, Steve, Frank,
Thank you.
Chris, Ian, not you, John, Jonathan, David, Bees, Austin, Neil, Scott, Tyler, Sandy, James, Steven, Matthew. You guys are all awesome. Thank
And Jeremy,
you so
because I
much.
see you in here, man. Good to see you. Guys, this was a great show. Tyler, good to see you as well. I don't know if he mentioned that. He probably did. Drew rarely misses names. Fun show. I guess we're not talking about Vontaze Burfect and how he's getting screwed over because he's an unlike guy in the NFL. It's okay. He's gone for the rest of the season. I guess we don't have to really think about him, do we?
Yeah. And real quick, who do you got on the Rams and Seahawks? I forgot all about
Seahawks. I think the Rams have been booty for 4 games this year, even though I gave them, rank 11. I think the Seahawks have been much more consistent. I think defensively they're better. I think the Rams are going to come out, and we're going to be like, what the hell team is this? Todd Gurley seems to be a non-factor. Unless the Rams figure a lot of stuff out between now and Thursday, I got to go Seahawks.
Yeah, I got the Seahawks as well. The Rams need a lot of figuring out to do, especially what they're going to do with Gurley. Guys, that's it for us Sports Around the Bar. Thank you again so much for all the comments again. Jake, last words.
Last words, Neil says, Burfect is trash. Let me respond to that, even though this guy is an asswipe. And I don't know how else to describe him. He's an asswipe. He's that guy that you don't want unless he's on your team, and then you're like, I don't hate him so bad. I think he's getting a bad rap when you look at the hits that Derek Barnett laid on Jamal Williams and some of these other head-to-head kind of hits going on in this NFL season. Yes, Jack Doyle was defenseless. Yes, he should not have laid that hit down, but he was also still in the play. I think when you look at the way Vontaze Burfict's being punished because of his reputation, it's not fair. This should be a 2 to 4 game suspension, maybe 6 at the most. They're giving him the shaft.
We got to go.
Because we hate Vontaze Burfict.
Guys, thank you so much again, and we will, for Sports Around the Bar, this is Jake, I'm Drew, and we'll see you.
We'll talk about Vontaze Burfict another time. We'll see you guys later.